PAL. Yes, of course, there is a PAL.
If you needed a visual representation of the phrase bare minimum, a picture of the PlayStation Classic would do. This is Sony's answer to the SNES Classic and the NES Classic that's done very well for Nintendo. A small version of the original PlayStation from the 1990s, with a not all that impressive selection of 20 games packed into it. But it does have Intelligent Cube though, so, you know, swings and roundabouts. We'll get cracking with the positive stuff first. Let's have a look at the physical PlayStation Classic. What does it look like as a bit of plastic? You can have a look at that now. Look! It is a PlayStation Classic for you to look at with your eyes. Ha! Imagine that. Can you imagine such a thing? Imagine the PlayStation, the original, from the 1990s, but smaller. About the size of a baby dog's skull. And then you've got the PlayStation Classic. Oh, it's rectangular. And the lid doesn't open, of course. The disc lid doesn't open because it don't take discs, because it's got 20 games on it. Here's the box. Huh? Yeah? Something in it. It's got all the games on the back just to prove that the games are there. 20 games. 20 classic, the tape pulled a bit of it off. 20 classic games preloaded. They use the word preloaded to trick you into thinking that maybe you could download games onto it. I don't know why they chose that word actually. I won't accuse them of trickery, but it does give you the wrong impression. You ain't getting no more games on this, you're stuck with your 20. The CD case thing for Metal Gear Solid, Meryl's codec frequency is on the back of the box. I was playing Metal Gear Solid, and when Roy Campbell was talking about the back of the CD cases where you find the code for her, I checked the box. I was like, okay, if they know what they're doing, they've put that on the back of the, and they did know what they were doing because it's on there. So that's something anyway. So there's all the games. I'll put this box away now so we can keep talking about this thing, this hunk of plastic here. So like I say, it's okay. It's alright as a thing. Get a little close up of it. There's the sides. Your vents on the sides there. That's what it looks like underneath. There's your ports for your power and your HDMI lead. It don't come with a power adapter. You'll need a USB power adapter. Anyway, we'll look at the controller. You know, the original PlayStation controller replicated. You know, no sticks or anything like that. Again, it's okay. I mean, it is what it is. The cable is longer than the NES Classic, which was bloody ridiculous, but still fairly short. I basically had to have this pretty near me. My TV is about the length of 2 boys away from my chair, and this basically was just on the other side of the ottoman that I've got there, which is a good thing because you need to press that reset button here to get any games changed. You can't use the controller, you know, you can't press start and select at the same time or anything convenient. You actually have to physically press the button. You know, you got your button, you got a power button there. That's pretty self-explanatory. You got your open button here, which in this case is for changing discs. Again, there's no way to just do this from the controller. If you're playing Metal Gear Solid, Final Fantasy VII, you're playing any game that needs you to change a disc, you got to press that button there. And so the little reset button there is for changing your games. And that's about it, you know. USB, innit? 1 and 2. Controller. So they should have made just a die-cast replica. So as you can see, the main menu of the PlayStation Classic is dog shit. I say dog shit, it's okay in that it works, but that's pretty much every aspect of the PlayStation Classic. It's functional. It does the job in the least impressive way possible. You got a rotation here, 20 games. Each game has its own memory card section. Each game has its own resume point. You know, you quit the game and you can pick up where you left off. You've got to use the memory card to actually, like, get save states, though. This is just all the menu stuff. It's just plain, bare bones, not very impressive at all, really. Each game, I say each game, the system outputs up to 720p, and all the games run more or less okay. Here's Metal Gear Solid. This one is one of the games on this system that's aged quite well. For all of the weirdness of Metal Gear Solid's control scheme, it's held up. I actually found myself getting to grips with this one a lot easier than some of the others. You know, playing something like Jumping Flash is okay, little incomprehensible because of the graphics and the limited controls, but a lot of them still run perfectly fine. The selection of games, as I said, not all that impressive. There are some glaring omissions on here. You want to think about games that define the PlayStation as it was. You'd think about Crash Bandicoot, Spyro, Tomb Raider, some may think of Parappa the Rapper or Jamalami, at least one of the two, and they're all pretty conspicuous in their absence. You would not find a lineup that would satisfy everyone, but this is a lineup that doesn't really satisfy many people at all. It's got a few of the really obvious choices, such as Resident Evil here, but outside of that, the fact that you can't add games to it is a bit of a shame, because that would at least leave the window open. But some of them you just wonder why they're on here. I'll talk about one when the footage comes up, but while some of them are enjoyable enough to play, for a little bit, I can't see myself sat down to play, something like Destruction Derby for more than 15 minutes, 20 minutes maximum. It's not bad. It was fine in its time. I used to enjoy playing Destruction Derby. And you've got to call it Destruction Derby because 9 of the games on this system are the PAL versions, which is the European version, and that's why you've got to say Destruction Derby instead of Destruction Derby, so it's in line with the UK. Now, I grew up with the PAL versions, so there's no real difference to me. I mean, I say that. The whole discrepancy between Europe and America in that regard was dealt with years and years and years ago. It shouldn't be an issue. But this just speaks to the way Sony's put this thing together, that bare minimum philosophy that let's just make it function. It would have taken resources and time and presumably some money to include both versions or clear up the discrepancy issue, so they didn't bother. They just, no matter where in the world you are, they just whacked the PAL versions on it and just said, fuck it, which appears to be the guiding principle of the PlayStation Classic. Just shrug your shoulders, fuck it. So anyway, while I am enjoying well enough playing something like Resident Evil or Metal Gear Solid, some of the games I'm not enjoying at all. The original Grand Theft Auto being one of them. Now, it's not that the game itself is total trash trousers, although it's one of those ones that didn't age particularly well. It hurts my eyes. The juddering of the screen, the stuttering of, not the performance, but the way the graphics themselves stutter as the map scrolls. It makes my eyes quite literally physically water. It's horrible. So I didn't play this for very much. Although the cheats all work, you can still name yourself Bastard and get all the weapons, which clearly I did. I wasn't going to try and play that game normally. You need all the help you can get trying to struggle with it these days. But yeah, so some of these games, and this is just one fine example, I just can't play. I just cannot play in this day and age. My eyes can't handle it. That big a screen, running that horribly. No thank you very much. Ultimately, the PlayStation Classic works. It's functional. It's fine at what it does. It does a decent job, but the job itself isn't all that worthwhile. To get 20 games, some of which are okay, some of which are quite good, many of which are forgettable, gather them up into this system, a system that at announcement was somewhat exciting and just got less and less interesting as more and more was revealed about it. Now really the only reason that I have a PlayStation Classic right now is this video. The only reason I kept my order and didn't join many others in cancelling it off was because I was going to cover it for this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have bothered. It was a somewhat exciting prospect when it was first revealed as an idea, but the more and more that came out about it, the less tantalising it seemed. And it just... I mean, I've not seen many products that get less exciting to this degree the more we learn about it. And now that I have it, yeah, it was okay for an evening to diddle around with, but I'm done with that now. I unplugged it to do the physical look at it in front of the camera earlier, and I don't know if I'm going to bother plugging it back in. There are some fine enough games on there, but I haven't played them in other places. I wasn't even going to bother starting Final Fantasy VII on it. I'd play that on my PS4. I guess right now at the time of talking, it is the most convenient way, personally, to play Wild Arms and Metal Gear Solid. But $100 to do that, it's not worth it. Like as I say, this system is fine, but it's not $100 fine. Not by a long shot. Bare minimum. That's the watch phrase for this thing. It is the bare minimum. Sony could have done a lot better with this, but Sony didn't bother. Sony just assumed that because Nintendo's doing very well with their systems, they just slapped the word PlayStation on a box and it'd sell like hotcakes. But with a weak selection of games presented weekly, this just is not something I could ever recommend. It's just a little rectangular piece of
Not only that, but several pounds of muff are reported every year.